Good evening, everybody. Today is December 27th, 2017. This is Cabin Boy. This is my first talk ever on YouTube. So bear with me. I might sound a little nervous and all that, but I guess that's all right. I'm just talking to myself. Anyways, uh, tonight I have two topics here, which I did a lot of research on. Um, the first thing, my first topic is Bruce Lee's death. Now, Bruce Lee has been my idol since I was 14 years old, and it all started when I watched Return of the Dragon. After that, I was hooked on Bruce Lee. And a lot of people that follow his philosophy, they don't really care of how he died. It's more about how he lived his life, and his philosophy is so strong today. You know, it's like I apply it to my day to day life here and there. I still have his book, Tao of Jeet Kune Do. I had that since I was 15, and I've read it about 6 times. And now I'm going to start reading it maybe tonight after the chat. My second topic that I'm going to talk about is Tim Hague. Tim Hague is a MMA guy that turned to boxing, and after his fourth boxing match in Edmonton, Alberta, he slipped into a coma, died. I believe it was a few hours later or 2 days later. It's one of the two there. So, as I stated earlier, this is my first talk, so I picked these two topics. The reason why I picked Bruce Lee's death is that, like, I live on YouTube. I watch if in my spare time. I'm on YouTube, and just a few days ago, where Bruce Lee died back in 1973 on July 20th, he was working with a woman in her apartment building because he was going to give her a role in his last fight, Game of Death. Woman Betty King Pei, she actually just came out and spoke about his death, and this is what sparked me to do this topic here. And I watched the interview, and I'm just kind of thinking, okay, well, how did he die? How did he really die in her apartment? Okay, so I just came back from the mall, got a haircut. I look good. I mean, like, everybody, come see how good I look. I I got to cover the mirror with my towel so I don't have to keep staring at myself. I got it at Tommy Gunn's at the mall, Park Place Mall. I always get a haircut there. Totally recommend it. It's well worth it. And then, you feel like coming out like you feel like a porn star almost. Anyways, I went to get a haircut. Then I came home, and it is fucking cold outside. Like, I love the cold, but tonight in Lethbridge, Alberta, it's fucking freezing, man. My dick's turning into a popsicle, and I can't feel my hands. And I'm riding my bike, but I got a face mask, I got a toque, gloves, jacket, whatnot, and it's still fucking cold. And we're getting close to 2018. I'm glad 2017 is almost over. There's been obstacles that I go through every day, and throughout this year, it was both. It wasn't just you know easy. Waking up is the first fight that you got to win, and it sucks. Anyways, so I'm going to go on to my first topic here: Bruce Lee's death. And the information I got, I watched a few of his documentaries about his life when I was younger, and there's always like, when I watched them, some of them said the same thing, so I thought that was the truth, right? When person says, "Oh, he died from taking an aspirin," or in this, what else it's called is an equagesic, and I'll get into that. And so this first topic about Bruce Lee's death is I'm going to get very in depth with it. So there's going to be a bit of science, and if you're a geek like me, you're going to start googling the stuff that I say. But anyways, let's move into the first topic here. Okay, so 2 months before Bruce Lee's death, he was at the studio editing, Enter the Dragon. Enter the Dragon was the film that got him international fame. He was working with Raymond Chow, who was the producer of um, what is it called again? Golden Harvest Studios. Golden Harvest Studios teamed up with Warner Brothers, and they made Enter the Dragon, and this what brought Bruce Lee out there. Like everybody in the world knew him because of this. Anyways, he was in the studio. He was doing some type of editing. I think it was a voiceover. I don't know. I didn't really get into that part, but I just got that he was in the studio editing Enter the Dragon. And in the back of the studio, he collapsed, and one of his colleagues that he works with found him lying there, and he was lying, and it was like a seizure, but he was shivering. So the colleague of Bruce went to Raymond Chow, who was the producer of Golden Harvest Studios. He called his doctor right away, and his doctor told Raymond Chow, "You got to check Bruce in right away." So Bruce was rushed to the hospital, and the doctor explained that he had a fever, a very high fever. He started to shiver. He was unresponsive. He was in and out of consciousness, and he was breathing quite heavily. And also, they found a small amount of cannabis in his stomach. They removed it. This is where I'm going to get scientific here. Okay. A neurologist examined Bruce carefully, and the results showed that he had swelling of the brain and was given medication to reduce the swelling. Okay, so first of all, bang, he collapsed in the studio, gets rushed to the hospital, and he's having all these types of symptoms, and they remove the cannabis. And from my understanding, it was hashish. Hashish is it's a form of marijuana, but it's like in a hard clump. It must be just like hard as I'd have to say a chocolate chip. If you squeeze a chocolate chip, it could either just kind of like melt. And that's how this hash was. So he'd eat it, and it would help him, relieve his stress from his film work, his workouts, and because he never really got any rest. So when he was when he was released out of the hospital, he was given medication. The medication is called mannitol, Mannitol. And when I Googled it, it said that it's supposed to reduce swelling pretty much, and to make you piss a lot. So when I Googled mannitol, I could actually remember when I researched it, it could be administered by syringe. So I was thinking Bruce Lee must have got a needle in the head because his brain swelled. So this mannitol is supposed to bring down the swelling. He's supposed to piss out all that fluid that was built up in his brain. So when I'm looking up mannitol, I do not want to use Wikipedia. Do not use Wikipedia, everybody. That's what I learned when I was in college. Do not use Wikipedia. Wikipedia is like the crack. It's the first one there. Anyways, so I'm just looking up mannitol. So just bear with me. I'm just trying to find a good explanation of what it does. Yes, so it says here that mannitol is a naturally occurring substance that causes the body to lose water through osmosis. So it's got to do a lot with the kidneys and it's got to filtrate some bad stuff and whatnot. So, uh, yes, it's injectable by syringe. So I'm thinking he must have got a needle in the head after he suffered that little accident there. Okay, and then everybody knows what weed is. So Bruce Lee didn't smoke it because he thought he would it fuck up his cardiovascular. So he ate it, and when you eat it, it goes into your bloodstream quicker, and that's how you get a body high, to where your body just feels like a nice tingling sensation. Okay, so just moving along here. When Linda, Bruce's wife, arrived at the hospital, his eyes were rolled back and he wasn't making sense when he tried to speak. The next day, he regained consciousness and was asked by a doctor if he was on some type of drug or medication. Bruce told the doctor he was eating hashish from Nepal. No, I don't know much of Nepal. You guys, like I'm assuming it's in somewhere near Hong Kong. I don't know. That's one part I didn't really get in depth with. But anyways, he was eating hash from Nepal. The doctor told Bruce to stop using that drug because it's very pure and the strength will kill him. But do you think Bruce Lee was going to listen to this doctor? No, no, he didn't. He just kept doing it. So 2 weeks later, Bruce went back to the United States to be examined by another doctor who prescribed him medication from convulsions but didn't find the cause. Because you can't just fall down and start twitching out of nowhere. No, there has to be a cause. So he was prescribed Dilantin. So here we go back to Google, and we'll just get scientific about um, Dilantin. And I've heard of Dilantin, but I just never really got into the definition and its cure for it. So Dilantin. Remember, don't go on Wikipedia. Okay, so this is a anti seizure medication or drug, and it's also called an convolution. I cannot say that word. Sorry, but it works by slowing down impulses in the brain that causes seizures. It's supposed to control it, and it's supposed to. There's another drug inside that, or excuse me, there's another drug that does not treat all types of seizures. So I guess if you're gonna have a seizure, you're gonna have to start taking Dilantin. Fuck. Okay, so far, and this is before he passed away. Remember, this is 2 months before he passed. Okay, and so far he's been just prescribed that mannitol from his first accident. Then 2 weeks later, he gets prescribed Dilantin. He gets the weed removed from his stomach, and at this point, he's still taking that weed, because he really pushed himself to the limit, you know, and none of us could do what he did. Anyways, so the doctor stated that Bruce was in good health at the weight of only 125 pounds. Now, these Chinese people, yeah, they're small and they, you know, 125 pounds for someone in Bruce's physical state. Yeah, that's pretty good, I guess. So, anyways, Linda, his wife, went to dinner with a friend. Okay, Linda Lee was her name. Now her name is Linda Lee Caldwell because she married again and she's still alive. Anyways, she went to dinner with a friend while Bruce and Raymond Shaw went to meet up with George Lazenby at a hotel. So George Lazenby worked with Raymond Shaw and Bruce. They're going to get ready to do Game of Death. Now, Game of Death, if you watch the movie, Bruce Lee is not in the whole film. I'm saying about maybe about 70% of the film is not the real Bruce Lee. The actor, the double, his name is actually Bruce Lee, and he was the closest lookalike to Bruce, right? So they worked on Game of Death. Uh, Bruce Lee only did the last 3 fight scenes in Game of Death. That's the actual Bruce Lee. So he goes up to a what do you call them, pagoda? They're like a Chinese apartment. I don't know. Anyways, it must be like 4 stories. So in the first gets into this pagoda, the first guy he fights, I forget the guy's style. I don't know if it was Hapkido. Yeah, it wasn't judo, but he was wearing a gi with gold trimming with a gold belt, and his style was really that's what I should have looked up to, this guy's style. But I keep thinking it's Hapkido, not so much Taekwondo. Anyways, he fights the first guy, beats him, then he goes up to the next level, and next level he fights the guy that uses kali or eskrima stick fighting, and that's from the Philippines, and nunchucks were pulled out. So the character that's actually Bruce Lee's #1 student, Dan Inosanto. He was the one that showed Bruce Lee how to use sticks and nunchucks. The other weapons he's like, yeah, no, he used the stick fighting eskrima and nunchucks. He learned from Dan Inosanto. Anyways, so Bruce Lee just worked on the 3 last fight scenes. And okay, so carrying on to my topic here, I just kind of go off topic sometimes. They left Bruce Lee and Raymond Chow left their home, or left Bruce's home, as right after Linda arrived. So they just must have missed each other. And Bruce and Raymond Chow were going to Betty Ting Pei's apartment. They went to Betty's apartment because they were going to give her a role in the movie of Game of Death. And Bruce complained, like they were working together. Bruce, Raymond Chow, and Betty Ting Pei. They were working on the script, and they were working on it for a while. So Bruce, after a few hours, Bruce was complaining about a headache while working on the script, and Betty Ting Pei gave him an Equagesic. Okay, so an Equagesic is a painkiller that contains aspirin and some other type of ingredient. And I believe that Equagesics, yeah, it's a painkiller, pretty much. So Betty King Pei gave him this Equagesic, and he went to go lie down. I think it was in her room on her bed. I think that's where he went. He went to go lay down. He never awoke. That's where he died. And yeah, that's the sad part. Yeah, you don't have to start crying. Okay, so he was rushed to the hospital where he was pronounced dead. Raymond Chow had to announce the passing of the legend to the press of Hong Kong. A funeral was held 5 days after, where more than 25,000 people attended. That's a lot of Chinese people. Okay, and so after that funeral, Bruce Lee's wife Linda wanted to take his body back to the United States, but before she did, she told the Hong Kong press to leave Bruce Lee's death alone and let his soul rest in peace. And this was before she was going to take Bruce back to the U.S. And do you think the Chinese people listened to Linda? No, this is where the rumors started. Right after Raymond Chow announced Bruce's death, yeah, that's where all the rumors started. So then after Linda told the Hong Kong press, hey, just leave him alone. He's dead now. I'm taking him back to the U.S. And in one documentary, she stated that she took Bruce Lee's body back to the U.S. because that's where he loved it there. And that's where, he got this big, that's where he was famous. Everybody knew him. And when he went to Hong Kong, he was like Elvis Presley. He had to have security around him because there were so many Chinese people that were just, they would shout his name. It's called Lei Su Wong. That means little dragon. That was his birth name. So they'd be shouting that name. Anyways, so another 5 days later, a funeral was held in Seattle, Washington, where his friends like James Coburn, Steve McQueen, and his number one student, Danny Nosanto, attended and carried him to his final resting place. There were other actors in there too that knew him pretty good, and I forgot their names, but James Coburn, Steve McQueen are the two that really stood out. And another thing, on Game of Death, the last fight scene, he fights his actual student Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. That was a pretty interesting fight, and like to work with Bruce Lee. He knew camera angles. He knew how to synchronize the fight to make it look just like like a, how would you say, like a ballet, or something to do with balance and stuff. But he wanted it to flow. He wanted to make it look as real as possible. Anyways, so yeah, James Coburn, Steve McQueen, and his number one student, Danny Inosanto, as well as other Hollywood actors that knew him, carried him to his final resting place. So an autopsy was performed with the results 2 months after his death. A small portion of weed was found in his stomach. Again, okay, this is where I don't believe he would smuggle weed that way. I know there's a way to smuggle weed, but he just ate it. Wasn't smuggling it. He just ate it because he overdid his body and his mind and had to relax because he never really slept. Anyways, days later, Linda confirmed that Bruce was ingesting cannabis, but never showed side effects of the drug. So here we go, scientific again. Bruce Lee didn't smoke weed because it would fuck up his cardiovascular, and he would probably, have trouble breathing. All that work doing your cardio, and you want to smoke weed? No, it's not going to help. So that's why he ate it, and it got into your bloodstream faster, calmed you down, calm your body, and it's a body high, so you feel really good. So they found a piece of weed in his stomach, and his wife said, "Hey, yeah, he was eating, but he never showed side effects. So if you smoke weed, your eyes are red, your mouth is dry. Yeah, you become incredibly hungry." And then you get paranoid. Like some people out there, it's funny how they like, oh, I don't like to smoke weed because fuck, I get paranoid. And I always ask them, well, what are you really paranoid of? And they don't know what to say. They're like, yeah, what are you paranoid? And they think about it. And it's like, you know what? I don't know. I just feel paranoid. I was like that too, man. The first time I smoked weed, yeah, I was like, oh fuck, I hope I don't see so and so. Anyways, I keep getting off track here. Anyways, on September 24th, 1973, the person that performed the autopsy revealed that Bruce's death came from many other issues he had with his body. And when I watched these documentaries on him, there's one called Death by Misadventure. So I didn't really know what that meant. But when I looked further into it, he had to face so many issues like discrimination. When him and Linda were dating, they went to go meet Linda's mother, and she did not like him because of his color. So he had to face stuff like that. Even in Hollywood, discrimination. He was picked, for the. I don't know if you guys ever heard of Kung Fu, the series with David Carradine. They picked David Carradine for Bruce Lee, and he was very mad. And that's the stuff he had to face every day because and plus he was getting famous. he didn't know who a lot of people like. If oh, he knew a lot of people, and there was a lot of people that said they knew him, but he never knew who was his friend. They just wanted to get something out of him, and he was challenged too as well. He was challenged on the set of Enter the Dragon. A couple of the extras challenged him and say, "How good are you?" You know, and they would do this thing where they'd stand by them by they would stand by Bruce with their arms folded, tapping their foot. And Bruce wasn't stupid. He knew this was going to happen, so he had to fight. He just couldn't walk away. And there I am going off topic, but so in 1970, okay, so we're talking about before Bruce's death, okay? So 2 months before he had that seizure or he collapsed and he was put on medication, they found weed in his stomach. What else? Yeah, so there's a lot of other issues before he died, and that's what I'm going to get into. I kind of lost it for a second. Okay. So in 1970, okay, see, now we're getting into the issues before he died. 1970, he suffered a back injury and could not walk for 6 months. He did that by doing this back exercise. It's called a good morning exercise. And I believe it's when you sit down on the floor with your legs straight. And what he did is he grabbed a dumbbell and he put it behind his neck and he would lower himself to where he was parallel with his legs and the floor. That was called a good morning exercise. And he did something to his back where he couldn't walk for 6 months. Now, if you guys watch Dragon the Bruce Lee story, like Hollywood, the movies really like to exaggerate the matter of how he got injured and how this curse was in his family. So in the movie Dragon Bruce Lee story, he was challenged by Wong Jack Man. He was challenged because the Chinese community found out that he was teaching Kung Fu to non-Chinese people like like white, black, Hispanics, and the Chinese were they were offended, so they sent this Wong Jack Man to fight Bruce Lee. Okay, we're still talking about the movie here, and so they fight. Bruce Lee beats Wong Jack Man. Wong Jack Man gets up and does a flying side kick to Bruce Lee's back. Next, he's in the hospital. That's how they exaggerated it. And this is what I got is that he was doing that exercise, fucked up his back. Okay, so after his industry, after his back injury, that when he was a fucking man, I keep fucking up. Anyways, after his injury, the doctor prescribed him medication for pain, and the medication was diloxine. So I'm going to spell this out for you. You could Google it. It's DOLOZENE. Okay, so we're going to go back to Google and we're going to find out what this diloxine does. So he was given all these other, like he was given this medication. It was all for pain, and at the same time he's ingesting weed. So there's stuff like that led to his death. First, that okay, we're getting into the back injury. We're just gonna get deep and down dirty with this diloxine. This is he couldn't walk for 6 months. And in the movie Dragon to Bruce Lee movie or story, sorry, fuck. He was he was in the hospital and his wife told him, all this stuff, why don't you just tell me what to write? I'll write it down since you're not going anywhere. That was fucked up. Okay, so I just want to know basic medical info about diloxin. Okay. All right. So diloxin is a group of medicines called and it's used for relief of mild to moderate pain in patients who do not gain adequate pain relief from other analgesics. Correct me if I'm wrong if I'm saying that wrong. If I'm saying that word wrong. So diloxine is a habit forming, which I read too that Bruce Lee had to depend on this diloxine. After his back injury, he kept fucking taking it, and I believe he was addicted to painkillers as such as these ones, like the ones he was prescribed. But he's he's still he was still eating that weed. Okay, so he was prescribed diloxine. And the other thing about Bruce's death is that when he was given that Equagesic by Betty King Pei, his brain was probably hypersensitive to the drug, which triggered his death. And he's complaining about a headache, you know, and it must have been from the other medications mixed in with the marijuana in his bloodstream, and it caused him to have this headache. And Equagesic killed him. Another thing, Bruce only had 1% of fat in his whole body, which wasn't healthy at all. I mean, we need fat and sugar in our body because it's like a second gas tank. When you start feeling when you start feeling hungry, that's where your body is using stored fat and sugars. So 100% or 1% of fat is not healthy at all. He was just muscle and bone. And remember when I stated after he had that first like a seizure, the doctor's like, "Oh, this guy's perfectly healthy. He's 125 pounds of muscle and bone, but he's healthy." And then, I'm sure another doctor found out that he only had this 1% of fat, and it like this led to other stuff as well. He did everything himself in the film industry. He was striving for perfection, putting a lot of pressure on himself as well as performing intense workouts, which led to him weighing 154 pounds, dropping to 132. So when you think about it, these fighters in UFC and MMA, that's how they drop weight too, and it's not healthy. It's not healthy to drop 20 pounds in a week or so. Your body needs that fat. And to me, like when these MMA fighters have to drop weight, that's just unhealthy and it's stupid. And they go to great lengths of doing it. And compared to Bruce only having 1% of fat, his body could just use it like that. Okay, so he dropped weight drastically. And a lot of people that he knew, like after his physical appearance didn't look very healthy. He looked pale to most people, and he started to have these rages, and they're not roid rages. They're just like he'd freak out because he put a lot of pressure on himself. He wanted his films to look, awesome, and he was feeling depressed all the time. So there's these four issues he had before he died. So first of all, he had the back injury. He was given medication. He had only that 1% of fat because he kept pushing his body to past his limits and didn't really rest while he was doing his film work. So when he was doing his film work, he put a lot of pressure. Okay, so that's the 1% fat is number two. Number three is when he's just putting a lot of pressure on himself, not sleeping, not eating. And he dropped weight. He dropped weight from 154 pounds to 132 drastically. So he must have lost that weight in like 2 weeks or less. And then, this led to number four. His physical appearance didn't look healthy. Pale face, he had rages, and he was feeling depressed all the time. So that's my first topic of Bruce Lee's death. Please leave a comment down below if you'd like to add stuff. But when I first did this research on Bruce Lee's death, I always go to the 5 W's. when, where, why, what, and how, and all that. And I try to answer that first and then put it in my own words. All right. So my second topic, this one is disturbing to me because it's just disturbing. The second topic here, if I could find it. Okay, so that was Bruce Lee's death. My second topic is the death of Tim Hague. Tim Hague was a Canadian mixed martial artist from Edmonton, Alberta, who fought in Canada under MMA organizations as well as the UFC in the heavyweight division. Okay, so you could go onto YouTube. You could click Tim Hague and you could watch his last fight, which I watched it first, and I'm just like, no. And what was disturbing about this is that you never really hear about people dying in the ring. It's always like you never hear about people, after a match, boom, they're dead. They're dead. And I forgot what I was gonna say. I keep having these brain stalls. So what I came across is like there's a lot of research and a lot of science. Uh, Hold on one second. So Tim Hague, just to narrow it down, and we're going to expand it. Tim Hague was this MMA fighter, and go on YouTube, watch his last fight. It's disturbing. I only watched it a few times, and after that, I'm like, no, I can't watch it because I used to be a boxer. Started in 2002, retired in 2011. And this is like one of the reasons why I don't want to really go into boxing anymore. So, anyways, Tim Hague, MMA fighter, fought in Canada, UFC. He got released from the UFC. He fought. He actually fought here in Lethbridge in a super boxing match. Super boxing match is you fight in a cage, but you have MMA rules. Like when you're standing up, you could box, you could kickbox, you could elbow, you could knee strike, you could throw kicks to the legs, to the body, to the head. But once both or one or both of the fighters hit the floor, the fight stood back up. So he competed in one of these fights and he lost. So actually, we'll just get right into it here with Tim Hague. Okay, so Tim Hague was the Canadian martial artist, fought in Canada in the heavyweight division. In his MMA career, he had 23 wins and 13 losses. Out of his 13 losses, many consisted of knockout blows to his head, ranging from punches, elbows, knees, kicks, and he also lost by decision as well. Okay, so after all this, Tim Hague thought, man, maybe I should take a jab at stepping into the pro boxing circuit. So I don't have to worry about getting kicked in the head or taken to the ground, kick to the leg, elbow to the head, stuff like that. But, this was the wrong choice, of course, right? So he had a pro boxing record of 1 win, 2 losses. His fourth fight in the ring ended in tragedy when he was knocked out in the second round by Adam Braidwood, whose record was 7 wins and 1 loss at that time. So Adam Braidwood knocks out Tim Hague in the second round. This was a wake-up call to the boxing promotion as well as the Combative Sports Commission in Edmonton. So on the night of June 16th, 2017, at the Shaw Conference Center in Edmonton, Alberta, KO Boxing Promotions held an event sanctioned by the Edmonton Combative Sports Commission. Tim Hague fought his last fight there against Adam Braidwood. Braidwood, when you watch the fight, Braidwood he was very composed compared to Tim Hague. Tim Hague looked like an amateur. He looked just like he didn't know where he was. And when you look at it, like he stumbled around the ring. He was lunging his jab. He was throwing looping wide punches, and you could see these a mile away, and you could just tell, he's going to throw something because he's leading with his chin at first, and his hand is way back there. Anybody who stepped in the ring anybody could have, see these punches from a mile away and just, defend, counter, whatnot. Then he was losing his balance, and he got knocked down 3 times in the first round. Okay. 10 seconds before the round ended, Braidwood would land a jab that knocked down Hague for the third time that looked effortless, which Hague got a standing 8 count for. He was saved by the bell, as I just said, 10 seconds before the round ends. They always give a warning. They have 2 wooden planks, and that's 10-second warning. So after that, Braidwood just throws this jab like he didn't really put power into it, but then Tim Hague gets hit by it, and he's like stumbling 4 feet away. So he got a standing 8 count for that. So then right after that, he was saved by the bell. So in the second round, Hague got knocked down again with a referee, Len Koivisto. Len Koivisto refed my second pro fight, which I won. And by the way, anyways, Len Koivisto giving him a standing 8 count and told Hague, if you don't show me anything, I'm going to stop the fight. And just to think of it, Len, you got to think about this, man. Tim Hague was knocked down 3 times. You should have, after that third one, you should have just called the fight. That's all I got to say. All right. Anyways, carrying on. Len Koivisto said, "Look, you got to throw him. You got to show me something to stop the fight." So later in the round, Braidwood threw a crisp left hook to Hague's head, which sent him to the canvas and ended the fight there with Braidwood declared the winner by KO. That's where it got disturbing. But there was a nice left hook by Braidwood. When Tim Hague got hit by that left hook, man, did he ever he hit the fucking canvas World Trade Center style. Like he went down. And, just to think of it, and I'm watching it, and I was like, oh, fuck. Yeah, he's out. Ref stops the fight. So after a few minutes later, Hague came to, and he was sitting in his corner on the stool there. So finally his team went and picked him up and brought him to the dressing room. And in his dressing room, he fell into a coma. Right after he fell into a coma, he was rushed to the hospital right away, where he died from a traumatic brain injury 2 days after. He was 34 years old. Now that's really sad because, like in my boxing days, you never worried about that stuff. But now, like, this is a big wake up call. This death of Tim Hague is a big wake up call to boxing, whoever, promotes and sanctions boxing here in Alberta and all over, the world, because a lot of the MMA fighters in the UFC heard about this. So anyways, there's a lot of questions that just came up. Even like I had my own questions. Like first of all, who was responsible for Tim Hague's death? First of all, my personal opinion is that Tim Hague, it was his fault because he wanted to go into boxing. He thought maybe this is easier than MMA. No, it's not. There's a lot of, like when I was boxing, yeah, it's the hurt business, man. It's the sweet science. It's the poor man's sport. You could start by getting a pair of running shoes and a skip rope. Bang, there you go. Anyways, who was responsible for his death? Yes, I believe he was responsible for his own death because he wanted to go into the boxing ring, which ended his life. Also, the Edmonton Combative Sports Commission. They're the ones that could have, should have did their research on this kid, Tim Hague, who, you know, was getting fucked up in the UFC. Like when he got knocked out, he got knocked out. You know, uh, in MMA rules, right? When you knock down your opponent and he falls to the mat, you have that. You got to go for the kill. You get on top of the guy. You start punching head, punching, elbowing him to the head till he's knocked out, or twisting his arm off, or twisting his leg out of proportion. Anyways, the Edmonton Combative Sports Commission, they should have had somebody to investigate his last fights, like his fight record, whether he won or lost. It was up to the doctor to say, hey, look, man, you've been getting knocked out in your fights and you want to fight in boxing. I don't think this is a good idea because you took a lot of punishment in MMA. And after our CAT scans on your head, yeah, you shouldn't, I don't think you should compete anymore. So, Combative Sports Commission and a doctor, I'm going to probably say his family doctor, was responsible for not, doing their investigation and telling him, hey, sorry, man, you can't fight in the boxing ring because you've been getting knocked out, you're having concussions, not good for your brain. Plus he probably didn't worry about that. And there was a lot of things that led up to the death of Tim Hague. Okay, so he fought in a super boxing event where MMA rules like boxing mixed with kickboxing apply, and the fight is halted when or stood back up when one or both fighters hit the mat. Okay, so Hague, and this was here in Lethbridge, Alberta, and he lost the fight in the first round by TKO. So 2 months before he fought Braidwood, well, that was 2 months before he fought Braidwood. He fought here in Lethbridge, and so 2 months before he fought Braidwood, 4 months before that fight, he fought in the ring, losing by TKO in the first round. Okay, so that was I believe that was his last loss, or no, his last before he fought in the ring. That must have been his third pro fight. That had to be his third pro fight. Okay, so in 2016 he fought in Russia, losing by head kick in the first round. So when it said head kick, I'm assuming this is MMA. So he suffered these knockouts in a 9-month span. Okay. So he got knocked out. So we're just going to recap what happened before the fight. So he fought here in Lethbridge, lost the super boxing fight in round one, TKO. And that was 2 months before he fought Braidwood. Okay, so 4 months before this super boxing fight, fought in the ring, losing by TKO in the first round. So that had to be his third fight, which he lost because he had in his record before he fought Braidwood, he had 1 win, 2 losses. And in 2016, losing a head kick in the first round. Okay, so he suffered these knockouts in a 9-month span. Somebody should have said something, like his team, his doctor, his coach, he had a son. He should have just, can just sit there, look in the mirror and say, am I going to be doing this the rest of my life? No, Tim, you're not. And this is a lesson too. Like looking, if you're at a boxing event, you're out in the stands watching, you're probably thinking, oh, I could do that. Yes, it looks easy from the outside. And when you see it on TV, you're like, oh, I could do this. But it's a different story when you step in the ring because you got all eyes on you and your opponent, and it's you, your opponent, and the ref. And you got to express yourself. This is where Bruce Lee came into play. For combat, you have to express yourself. You got to throw that jab like you mean it. You got to throw that hook when you mean it. You can't just throw it and hope it lands. No, you got to really dig deep down inside. Your spirit has to motivate your body to move. This is where the mind, body, and spirit all comes together. And it's unfortunate that these, Bruce Lee passed away. Uh, who else? Yeah, and Tim Hague. It's disturbing. Like I never really when I was Bruce Lee was my interest. I never really asked why he died or how he died. It was later that when I watched these documentaries that then I found out. My first speculation that I came up with a few years ago, Bruce Lee, with his fame, with his his films he made in Hong Kong, Enter the Dragon, whatnot. He was also on TV series like The Green Hornet, and he made an appearance in Batman as I think it was Kato in from The Green Hornet, and he was on a TV show called Longstreet. And when he did these TV series, he was expressing his art of Jeet Kune Do. He said, "Be like the nature of water. Water can flow, water can crash. Be water, my friend." And that makes a lot of sense because, for instance, your daily routine, winning the first fight, getting out of bed early. Whether you drink coffee or not, or watch the news, you got to get up, get yourself ready. That's winning the first fight. You get ready, you go to work, you do your job, come home, eat dinner, do, like if you have extracurricular activities like going to the gym or playing hockey, basketball, you just got to live your life without any prejudice, any negativeness. You just got to flow through all that. You think about a river flows, you know, and that's how life is. Be like water. So yeah, my first speculation, I keep getting off topic here. My first speculation was when he was doing the film work, he was approached by these Chinese triads, which are organized crime in Hong Kong, and they approached him and they said, "Hey, you play ball with us. We'd like to skim some money off of you. We'll protect you. Anybody that fucks around with you, come call us. We'll take care of them." Bruce Lee just denied. He said, "No, I do not want to get involved with you guys. I'm doing my own thing. Thank you very much." So this kind of angered, this is my own speculation, okay? So it angered the Chinese triads. And these guys were like, "Hey, this guy's making a lot. He's very popular in Hong Kong. We got to get him. We got to get him. We got to get him in with us." So when he denied their offer, it pissed them off. And this is what I always think. Okay, so when he denied them, their help and whatnot, their offer, they must have talked to Betty Ting Pei. That's where he died. That's where Bruce Lee died. Betty Ting Pei was offered lots of money by the Chinese triads and said, "Hey, give Bruce Lee this, put it in his drink, uh, put it in his food, or just give it to him. This is going to kill him because we're very pissed off that he denied us. And if you want in with us, Betty King Pei, you give him this. We're going to." So he took the Equagesic, died. Bang. That was my speculation. And then after doing this research about his death, I think, well, maybe I thought too hard about it. And yeah, after doing this research, I was just like, oh yeah, well, no wonder. A lot of people, like his wife said, don't concentrate like on how he died, concentrate on how he lived his life. And I don't know why they didn't. A lot of people don't really talk about it because his philosophy is more is, it's really strong. Like, people are out there still studying it. And when you think of Tim Hague's death, like he must have enjoyed doing MMA and boxing, but all dreams don't come true. You you get killed doing the things you love. Think about fucking NASCAR drivers when they crash. They love driving fast cars. There's the death. Your death is right there, waiting for it. So, what I wanted to do, like, if I had other, like, this is my first talk ever, and I hope to be getting some other people on and discussing stuff. Like, what I wanted to discuss is the similarities between these two deaths. So when you think of it, a lot of things led to Bruce Lee's death because he's pushing his body and his mind past its limits. He wasn't eating, he wasn't sleeping, he was just too obsessed with his film work. And he pushed himself to a limit. He had his back injury. Why the fuck do I keep fucking up saying the fucking word fucking injury? Gosh. I think I took a lot of shots in the head. Anyways, yeah, there's a lot of things that led up to Bruce Lee's death. Like him having that 1% body fat, dropping his weight from 154 to 132 drastically, which is still happening nowadays in the MMA world, and his appearance. It led to his appearance where he wasn't looking healthy. His physical appearance in general. And what else was there? Yeah, he was pale in the face. There was like rages where he get pissed off at everyone in his way, and then he started feeling depressed. And then another thing with Tim Hague's death. Remember what I said? He had those knockouts in a span of 9 months. I'm just going to count how many there were. Okay, so first of all, that was the super boxing event where he lost. So that's one TKO in the first round. And then before that fight, he fought in the ring. This was his third boxing match. He lost by TKO in the first round. So that's two so far. And in 2016, got kicked in the head, lost. So that's the first round KO pretty much. So two TKOs, one KO. And this happened in 9 months. Like if I was a doctor and I seen this, and if Tim Hague was still alive, I'd be like, yeah, you know what, Tim? You got to retire. You got to let your brain, uh, your brain took a lot of damage in MMA, and I don't think it's going to take any more. But it's too late. Like somebody should have told him that. It should have been his family doctor. And the way I think about it, that's where it started from. Like Tim Hague. Oh, hey, I want to get into boxing. The ringside doctor says, "Oh, he's clear to fight. He's clear to fight. Let's get him in there." The commission says, "All right, we'll get Tim Hague versus Adam Braidwood." Not knowing the fact that he took all the punishment, or his brain took all that punishment, right? So it's Tim Hague's fault, the ringside doctor's fault, KO Boxing, and the Edmonton Combative Sports Commission. Then when they got into the ring, it was the ref's fault. Like I stated earlier, Len Quivisto. He should have stopped the fight after that third knockdown. It didn't look like much, but still, he should have said, "Hey, man, downs in the first round. I'm stopping the fight. Can't do anymore. Can't take it." But if that was the fact, and it happened that way, say Len Quivisto stopped it in the first round because uh, he couldn't see, he couldn't take it, he couldn't take damage, or he couldn't. He said he pretty much had enough. That's what they say. Hey, I had enough. Can't see anymore. You taking any more damage. Step in the fight. But this could have. That could have been. His death could have been avoided right there. But later, it would probably happened later. So, and I'm thinking, yeah, so it was a lot of people's fault. And Adam Braidwood came out with a video on YouTube stating that he very sorry about this. I think he continued fighting after. But for me, if I fought somebody and they went down for the last count and I found out the same night, I'd hang up my gloves. Like, hey, you know what? If I'm gonna kill someone in the ring, I'm never gonna fight again. So yeah, there's the two similarities there. The Bruce Lee's death, you know, 2 months before it led up to all that. Uh, Tim Hague's death, the punishment his brain took. So Bruce Lee died from cerebral edema, which is brain swelling. Can you remember that happened 2 months before he died? He had a seizure. Doctor said his brain swelled. I'll get off track here. Tim Hague, his brain, it was a traumatic brain injury, which where his brain took too much damage, and that led to death. And it really disturbs me. I really cannot watch the fight. But if you want to, go to YouTube, type in Tim Hague's death, and I'll show maybe like a clip, like a minute clip of how the second round ended. So after all this, I this gave me a second thought. Should I step back into the ring? And I told myself, no. The reason why I don't want to step back in the ring because I have high blood pressure. I was turned down by a ringside doctor in Calgary, Alberta, and this pissed off a lot of people, even the promoter, my opponent, my coach. I was supposed to go on blood pressure medication. My second pro fight was in Calgary at the Deerfoot Casino. I fought John Mercante, and they called him the Italian Stallion. He's from, I think, Ontario, way east, right? So when you're going to step, this is a day before the fight. You get checked by the doctor. The doctor is going to check your eyes. I think he feels your face. He looks at your teeth. He checks your heart rate, your blood pressure. He asks you questions. Have you had any headaches, bloody nose, dizzy spells, stuff like that, right? And of course, I'm like, no. So then he checked my blood pressure and he said, you know what, your blood pressure is a bit high. You might want to just sit down and relax for a bit. So, because like I'm thinking, oh yes, this is my second pro fight. I'm hyped up. So it's just like fuck. And my coach gave me a Powerade. He said, drink this. Remember to breathe. Just relax. So the doctor, my coach, came up and said, look here. I'm going to test I'm going to look at your blood pressure again. If it's a little high, I cannot let you fight. But if it drops down a bit, I'm going to let this slide. But when you go home, you get on that medication, the high blood pressure medication. I was like, okay, sure. So he let me fight. And then, wow, it must have been 4 or 5 months after my coach gives me a call. Hey, Kevin, or sorry, Cabin Boy, got a fight for you in Calgary. Sure, yeah, I'll take it. Signed a contract. Head to Calgary the day before the fight. And it was a woman that was the ringside doctor. It was actually her first time doing being a ringside doctor for a boxing match. So when I get there, It's like in Calgary, it was hot at the time. And of course, I'm getting excited. I'm like, oh, yes, I can't wait to fight. I can't wait to fight. So psyched up. And I remember the one doctor from the Calgary fight told me to get on medication. I totally ignored his advice. And I thought, hey, man, I mean, get another fight. And I didn't know it was that serious. So the ringside doctor checked my blood pressure, and she's like, you know what? If your blood pressure goes any higher, we're going to send you to the hospital. And I was like, why? Is it that bad? And she said, yes. Your blood pressure is like really high. It's like borderline stroke. And I said, what? I said, that can't be. And I started to get irritated. So I just told the doctor, can I just sit and cool for a bit and have something to drink? And she said, yes. And I'm going to give you 20 minutes. And in 20 minutes, if it doesn't drop to, the normal, your normal blood pressure, I'm going to deny you access into the boxing ring. Like, you could do that? And she said, yes. So 20 minutes passed. She checked my blood pressure and she said, you know what? You're not going to fight tomorrow night. And I was just like, was I mad? I was mad. Not only was I mad, the promoter was pissed off. And he gave me shit. He said, hey, you were advised by another ringside doctor to get on that medication. Now this is what it's going to cost me. He's like, I want my money back for the meals I'm going to pay for. Shit. So this fucking shit rolled downhill like that. Anyways, enough about me. About my topics, Bruce Lee's death and Tim Hague's death in the ring, who were out after his boxing fights. Like I said before, this is my first talk, and I'd like to get a couple people on and to see what their point of view is on these topics that I'm going to come up with. I'm not too sure about my next one. I'm just going to have to do some research about anatomy, about the body and science, and how it plays in with combative sports like boxing and MMA. Those are the two sports that I could really relate to. I'm not really into WWE or Greco-Roman wrestling. They have it in the Olympics. Not really into that. So, anyways, whoever's out there listening, thank you for listening. Have a good night. Make sure, like if you learn something from these two topics that I discuss, don't step into the boxing ring because it looks easy on TV and, outside the ring. Don't eat weed, just smoke it. just smoke weed, you'll be fine, all right? You don't have to worry about your cardio. Plus, if you're from here in Lethbridge, next year it's going to be fucking legal. So I'm just going to fucking roll a joint, walk down the street, and say, hey, fucking legal, man. What are you going to do? Arrest me? Shit. Anyways, whoever's listening, have a good night. And I'll do another talk. And well, I'm going to figure out what I'm going to talk about next. But anyways, have a good night and Happy New Year's.